So this question was asked by Jonah Joe, and it says how to address issues related to IE browsers, as most of the code doesn't work there, like ES6 classes and etc. So we talked about you can use a website like Can I Use, and that'll tell you what features are supported in what browsers. Typically, the way you fix these things are with polyfills, and that's what we're going to show in this video, is how you would write a polyfill yourself. Now, you pretty much don't have to write your own polyfills because a lot of them exist out there, like core.js. But polyfills are things that can be implemented just with JavaScript code. You don't need any external things. There are some things that can only be, you can only get working using transpilation, where basically you write code that isn't directly supported in those older browsers, but then you run it through a tool like Babel and it converts it to code that is supported. And that's all of those things are specific to JavaScript. And then you also have things like an auto prefixer for CSS. And there's probably a lot of other stuff that I'm missing, but what we're specifically going to talk about right now are polyfills. So for example, array.prototype.reduce, if we go to caniuse.com, that is not supported in IE6. So you can look here, you can see what browsers support it. Polyfills with CJ. You can see that IE6 and IE8 do not have this in there. So if you tried to do array.reduce, it would just say like cannot call it'll say undefined is not a function, because reduce is undefined on arrays in IE6. Now, technically, you could bring in core.js. That would fix your problem. But I'm going to show you how we would write code to determine if array.prototype.reduce is supported. So I have a basic HTML document here. Disable drops? I'll leave drops on. It's fun. We have fun here. I don't know. So I'm going to add a basic script. But thank you for thinking about that, Elka. I don't know. I just say for anybody on YouTube that's complaining that that the drops are annoying or anything else is annoying, how much money did you pay to watch this video? $0. I also have ads disabled, so just be here with me and all these 260 people. Okay, so we're gonna have this app.js, and inside of app.js we're going to detect if array.prototype.reduce exists. So we can simply just do 260, well, now it's 266 to be exact. So actually, I'll create a function. I'll say polyfill reduce. So this function, when I run it, it will polyfill reduce. That's the plan. And inside of here, the first thing we'll do is we'll check if array.prototype.reduce is a thing. Then we'll just log. And actually, let's do an alert. Reduce is supported. Else. Boo. Reduce is not supported. So there are other ways to do this. Like this is basically just checking to see if that property exists on the array prototype, and if it does, then that means you can call reduce on your arrays. And so what we're going to say it's supported. But if it's not supported, then that means we want to polyfill it. Now, if I run this in Chrome, obviously it's going to be supported, but let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go into this example polyfill. I'm going to start up light server, which is a static file server, and it should just alert. Oh, I didn't call my function. So I have this function here, and when the page loads, I need to essentially call that function so that it will polyfill that reduce if it doesn't exist. And so now we can see we're in Chrome, so very obviously reduce is supported. I think the thing is alert goes way back, so you'd have to go really far back to see a browser that doesn't support alert. Yeah, IE6 has alert. We can make our reduce function if it doesn't exist. Yeah, and so the thing is, technically, because of the way JavaScript works, we could even create our own version of reduce, even if it was supported. But it's always good practice to make sure that it's not supported before you go in. Oh, I'm in Firefox. Yeah, I'm not in Chrome. Sorry, I forgot. But obviously, like, reduce has been supported for a very long time. I'm very curious. There's a way to test IE browsers. Test IE browser. Like browser stack or something like that. Browserling? I think this lets you test for free. Yeah, can we test it on IE6? We're gonna go way back. We're gonna go to Windows 7? Internet Explorer. I could fire up a virtual machine. Costs money. Do we have? I don't think they have Windows XP. Oh, there it is. I find it. Okay. I find it. Then we'll do IE6. Nice. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to deploy this website, so that way when we test it in the browser here, we should see reduce is not supported. So let's deploy it. Yeah, let's go. Nope, new project. We'll call this reduce polyfill. Right here. Cool. So if you, I'll share this site. I'll share this link in the chat. If you go to this website, it will tell you if your browser supports reduce. Let's try it. We're gonna try to run this app on Windows XP Internet Explorer 6. Test now. I'm in position 1 of 1. Here it comes. Wait, what? No, that ran it in Chrome. I did the wrong thing. It's running it in Chrome 55. I don't want that. I want Windows XP. Oh, they're only available to paying users. Welp. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Ultimately, I just wanted to show somewhere where it was broken, but that's okay. That's okay. So here's what I want to do. I'll say if it is not supported, then we need to implement it. And this is how we'll do that. So we'll create a function called reduce. Now, if we look at MDN, we can see the function definition or the function signature for array reduce, and that's basically what we need to implement. So if we look at array.prototype.reduce, we can see that it accepts a potentially 2 arguments. It accepts a callback function, or 2 parameters, a callback function and an initial value. So in my reduce function, I'm going to have a callback and an initial value. Like so. Cool. So this function I need to attach to the array prototype. And right now I'm just going to log, we have overridden, or we'll say we are in our custom reduce. Great. So I have the function. Now I need to attach it to the array prototype. And all I got to do is say array.prototype.reduce equals reduce. And I now have essentially anywhere below this line, anywhere below line 12, if you try to call reduce on an array, I have overridden it. I have, you're going to see my function instead. Yeah, this says don't define okay, I need to just disable ESLint, because ESLint is complaining about a lot of things. You can also see this is probably saying array prototype is read-only, properties should not be added. Technically, you can do this. The only thing stopping me is good practices. So I'm just gonna disable ESLint altogether, so that way it won't complain about anything. Great. So now, if I have an array of 1, 2, and 3, and I call reduce on it, we should see we are in my custom reduce. So let's do this. Refresh the page. Nope. Start up light server. Reduce is supported. Missing argument 0 when calling function. What? Why the heck would I get a type error? Soy. What? Because reduce is supported? Oh, it's not letting me overwrite it? I thought I did. I said array.prototype. Oh! I'm in a browser where it is supported. So basically I can't do this check. We'll keep that there. I totally forgot. I was in the else. Sorry, I was in the if, so that code never ran. So we're going to keep that if statement there because this is typically how you would detect it, but we're going to overwrite it no matter what. So we're going to do this. Now, we can see that we are in our custom reduce. Very good. Why did that log twice? Oh, because it, wait, does it call it, Doesn't call the function for every instance. Yeah. Can't access property pipe. R is undefined. Oh, browser sync is right. I don't know why it logged 11. Oh, is browser sync doing weird things? Oh, that's why. That's why I'm using browser sync to refresh the browser, and it's actually trying to use the reduce function. Okay, let's kill light server. This is going wonderfully. Content, we're creating content. I'm gonna use HTTP server because it doesn't auto refresh. It doesn't inject any JavaScript. So that's the reason it was running so many times. Content is because behind the scenes, browser sync was trying to use the reduce function, and very obviously I had broken it by overriding it. Okay, so let's keep going. Now, so we've overridden the function. We're taking in two parameters, callback and initial value. And the way reduce works is it basically assumes that, not assumes, but it can work on anything that's iterable. So we definitely need a for loop. Like technically we could use a for each, we could use some of those other supported methods, but if I want to be sure, by the way, can a page pollute the array prototype of that extension? But why? Oh, it's not an extension. Browser sync literally injects JavaScript. That's why that happened. But regardless, I'm going to use a for loop here because I know that for loops are supported in pretty much every browser. So if I'm implementing this polyfill, I can be sure that a for loop is actually going to work. Now, we need to iterate up to the length of the array. How do we do that? With the this keyword. So whenever we attach anything to the prototype in JavaScript, that function can get access to the context of that instance. So inside of here, when we say this.length, and actually I'm just going to log this.length. Yeah, it's been 12 minutes already. I don't know. Is this content? Maybe it'll be 20-minute content. I don't know. What's up, Copperbeardy? Welcome to the show. Thank you, Acid Spark. We'll do another focus. But now watch. When I run this function, it's going to call reduce, and we're going to see that the length is 3. This.length, because it's the length of the instance of the array, right? And if I call it again on something with only one item inside of it, now when this gets called, it's in the context of this instance, and that instance has a length of 1. So we should see 3 and then 1. So this, inside of this function, refers to the instance. And so the way to think about that is we're saying this array dot reduce. So inside of the function invocation, this is equal to the thing that we called reduce on. So the first time we call reduce, this is equal to this, because it's this dot reduce. And then the second time we call reduce, this is equal to this. Now, this if you're totally new to JavaScript and this in context, it can be very confusing, but that's kind of a good way to think about it. Is if you have a function, the thing on the left-hand side of the dot is, in most cases and most likely, what this will be inside of that function. Okay, so we have this. I'm going to enable 8 more minutes of focus mode. We'll finish this up. I'll stop wasting time. So 8 more minutes. And then we'll implement this. Okay, so now the way reduce works is it actually implements what's known as the accumulator pattern. And the accumulator pattern basically accumulates to a single value. So we'll say our accumulator is equal to the initial value. Or if someone does not pass in the initial value, then we actually set the accumulator to be the very first value in the array. So we kind of need some logic here. So we'll say, like, if there is an initial value, so we'll have the accumulator. Initially, it's undefined. If there is an initial value, we just set accumulator to the initial value. And then I also want, like, a starting. Where do I need to start in this array? So I'll say let's start default to 0. So we're always going to start at the beginning of the array. However, if there was no initial value passed in, then the accumulator needs to be set to the first element in the array. So I'm just going to say this bracket 0. And so the other thing is reduce expects that I can use indexing like this on the instance of this, which technically, like, will even work with strings, right? But regardless, so we have that. But if we set the accumulator to be the value at 0, then we need to say the start is now 1 because we want to skip that one. So we will say I equals start. So it's either going to start at 0 or 1, and our accumulator is going to have an initial value. Awesome. Now, for every element in the array, we need to invoke this callback function that gets passed in. So we can see on MDN that the callback function gets 4 parameters. It gets the accumulator. So inside the for loop here, we're going to call the callback function. It gets the current value. And the current value in this case, so we get the accumulator. The current value in this case is going to be this at I. That's the current value. We also get the index. In our case, that's I. And then we also get the array itself. And in this case, it's, someone tell me in the chat, what is the array? We already talked about it, but what do I pass in as the 4th argument here? This, yeah, so this is literally the array itself. The array is an array, yeah. Cool. And basically, we, and if you've used reduce before, and if you're familiar with the accumulator pattern, you know that each time your callback function gets called, let's take a quick stretch. We are taking a break. Yeah, you shouldn't do, in the real world, you should never do this. You should only do this if it's not supported, which is what we were doing earlier, but it's supported, so we do that. Coding with Dora the Explorer. Each invocation of this callback, the return value gets set to be the accumulator of the next invocation. Where can we see an example of that? Yeah, these are all really bad. These are all really bad examples, but I'll show you. Basically what that means is each invocation of this callback that gets passed in, we reassign to the accumulator, just like that. And so that basically invokes the function, passes in the current accumulator, the current value, the current index, and the array itself. The return value of that function becomes the accumulator in the next invocation, and then we invoke that callback function again. And then after all of this, we return the accumulator, like that. Now, this is basically the reduce function. I probably need error handling. I need to make sure that the array has a length, all that good stuff. So we'll say, yeah, if, yeah, I mean, technically, the start is 1, and that's probably a good, I don't know, this is fine. It's fine. It's fine. Good enough. Oh yeah, and that's a good point. So not for being is saying use var instead of let. Absolutely. So if I really were creating this as a polyfill, I would only want to do things that I know are supported in something like IE6. So in IE6, we don't have var letter const. Sorry, we don't have letter const. We only have var. So it would make a whole lot of sense to use var. And does anyone see any syntax in here that would not be supported in older browsers? I don't think so. I think everything I've written so far is, yeah, they have var. And Nika Yoda, thank you for that 2-month resub. They don't have let and const. Yeah, and Doc is mentioning that the MDN page actually has a polyfill with all the ECMA spec cases. And so that's the other thing, is you could look at the ECMAScript standard, which is the definition of how JavaScript should work, and in that they describe all the edge cases and of reduce and how it should work when certain things happen. Use Chrome, please. No var, we could only G. Yeah, and what's up, Fleximon? Welcome. Yeah, I think that's mainly it, and cool. So let's actually use it. So the typical way you see this happen is we have like the sum equal to the reduce here, and so we could take in sum and each value, and then we return sum plus value. And if we've done this correctly, like if we've implemented our reduce correctly, we should get the value 6 here. And then similarly, in this case, we should get the value 1. All right. Does it break? Cool. We get the value 6 and the value 1. So we've done it. We've done it. So basically, under the hood, this is basically what a reduce does. It invokes a function for every value inside of the array. It assigns the return value to the accumulator, and then it invokes the function again on the next value in the array using the previous return value. Cool. All right. Now, Doc mentioned that they have a polyfill here. Let's check it out. Yeah. So you can actually see, instead of doing array.prototype.reduce equals reduce, they're using object.define property. However, object.define property, is that supported? Yeah, see, even object.define property is not supported in IE6. So in IE6, you couldn't do that. You'd have to directly assign the property. And you can see that they have their check here. If array.prototype.reduce is not a thing, then we're going to define that property. If the array is null, it throws an error. If we don't get a callback function, we throw an error. We need to get the length. Oh, that's true. That's true, Loosmans. So they probably would first polyfill define property. And then after they've polyfilled define property, then they could polyfill reduce. That's true. Hello, Behooker. I'm not totally sure. This is doing some sort of bit shifting, or bitwise operator. Well, thank you, Irmo. Polyfilling polyfills, exactly. Oh, that's unfortunate. What's up, Andrew? Welcome to the show. This is a zero fill right shift. So shifts A in binary representation, B bits to the right, discarding bits shifted off and shifting in zeros from the left. Zero just makes the value a 32-bit unsigned integer. So couldn't they also do this, a bitwise OR with zero? Basically, they wanted to just round the length, right? Oh, well. In Lizard Storm. We got a bunch of follows. I'm going to acknowledge the follows in just a second. Yeah. It's not necessarily, shouldn't be skeptical of the quality. A lot of times people, not people, but coders do this for performance, and especially if they're polyfilling something that might get called a lot in the code. Bitwise operators can potentially increase the performance of the code. I wouldn't worry about this. As you can see that I'm just accessing this.length, right? Coders are people too. That's true. Cool. So you can see their implementation. I think that's it. I think we've done it. One thing that I will do is the classic arrange things by ID. Let's do this. If I go to the Coding Garden API for Vox Populi, I'm gonna get an array of users. All right, we're gonna look at this. We're going to get array of users, and we're going to convert that array of users into an object where the keys are the IDs and the values are the users themselves. And then I'll be done with this. Is this content? This is going to turn out to be like a 30-minute video. Let's call this vox.json. Throw that in there. Wait, did I lose precision? Or did I lose some data? Content. 3 hours of video. Hey. Well, you know what? I think we'll just curl it. Content. I'm gonna edit this. I guess I'll edit this part out. That's how content works, right? Oh, I could use Insomnia, huh? Oh well, we're gonna use curl. And then we're gonna send, is this how curl works? Send the output to data.json. 310 kilobytes. If we look at data.json, oh, that's pretty good. And we can run it through a formatter. Yeah, look at that. The only reason I'm doing this is because this gives me an array of users. If we go all the way down, so if we minimize questions, and we minimize ideas, and we minimize submissions, then we get the users. There we go. So this is the users. So we're going to create users.json. We're just going to put that in here. So we're going to say const users equals this big ol' array of users. And anybody that has asked a question in the past or today here on Twitch, you are in this array of users. But as you can see, right now it's an array of objects. See you later, Wolfpat. Thanks for being here. But it's an array of objects. And what I want to do is I want to use reduce to turn it into an object where the keys are the user ID and the values are the user's, let's do the user name. So we'll do that. So we have this users array here. And I should be able to say by name by ID is going to be users.reduce. My accumulator, we'll call it by ID. We're going to get each individual user. That's each value. This is the callback function. Here we can say by ID at user.id equals user.name. User.name. Here we go. A GDPR compliant reduce. What? We have been immortalized as a key value set. Yeah, that's what we're creating now. And if you were confused about what was happening in this implementation, this is basically what we're doing right now. The accumulator is that object because we're creating an object where the keys are the IDs and the values are the names. So the accumulator is that object. And on each iteration, we need to return that modified object so that way we can use it in the next iteration. And that's why you always see at the bottom of reduce, we return our accumulator by ID in this case. And in this case, we need an initial value because we are trying to create an object. So we need to say that our initial value is an object like that. I'd like to be forgotten from this. One day, Alka. I really do need to implement that though. But that should do it. So now, with this reduce function, we've taken this array of users and we've turned it into an object where the keys are the IDs and the values are the names. So let's try it. There we go. So we got this big ol' object and we can see all the people. There's Alka and Kavitka and Pure LOL and Jan and everyone else. But you can see that the keys are the IDs and the values are the user's name. So reduce can be used for a lot of different cases. And we've basically implemented this reduce function. Is this YouTube? This is not YouTube content. Regardless, if you watch this on YouTube, thanks for being here. Tune in on Twitch. I go live there sometimes. See you later.